Hello, I'm Betty Swann, and this is Wisdom in the Night. Hopefully, we're giving you answers for some of your hardest situations. Tonight, I have the greatest guest. Her name is Dee Rivera. She is a one-woman dynamo. She has all kinds of businesses, does all kinds of things, especially with Latino flavor. So tonight, hello, Dee.
Hi, Betty. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's just great to have you on, and I want people to know all about you, even your background. Just tell us a little bit about your background, growing up, whatever.
Well, I'm a native New Yorker. My grandparents are from Puerto Rico, so I call myself a New Yorican. And yeah, I'm born and raised here, went to school here, went to college here, and I actually love my heritage, love being Latina, love being bilingual. It's very helpful for what I do for a living.
Especially in the world today, right?
Yes, Spanish is very necessary. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad
and growing
that
in necessity.
And it's huge, yeah. So I'm very grateful that I could speak both languages.
Don't have to learn it. Just move on in it. All right, so you grew up in New York. So tell me about growing up. What was your life like?
Well, I grew up with a huge Puerto Rican loud family. So think about my Greek fat wedding, but Puerto Ricans. And everybody's involved in your business. There's no privacy. And so I had really amazing grandparents who were the foundation of really who I've become. Even though my parents were very much involved, they were always working. My dad was in the military. He was always away. So my grandmother and my grandfather played a very intricate role in just who I am as a woman, how I see family, the importance of family. And even though in every family, because no family is perfect, there's always a lot of dysfunction. In the family,
every family.
My grandparents were like my little solid pillars who, I miss them. They're gone, but I miss them to this day. And they really taught me a lot, especially my grandmother. So my grandmother, who taught me very much about God and prayer and the importance of relying on God, out of ignorance, she was also what you call a santera, which was someone who is involved in doing potions and incantations for certain things. And she never used it for evil, but I'm just going to give you an example. There was once where we had neighbors that were very loud, and they were just very destructive. And my grandmother just did something the night before, they were gone the next day.
Wow.
And so she was very, I think my grandmother had a gift. She was very prophetic. She had hands of healing, but I think the enemy who kills, steals, and destroys confused her. And, we all have that. Like my mother has that, my sister, myself. And so I think Satan was trying to twist that to ruin our calling and our destiny.
Yes, because there is a supernatural world.
Yes.
Some of it is God-led, and some of it is other-led.
Yes.
Right, and people can get mixed up in both, thinking they're following God. But the answer to all of that always, Dee, is line it up with the Word of God. Does God say you can do the two, you can mix the two? He says, no, I hate it. Do not have anything to do with it. Even though it looked like it was harmless or for a good thing.
Yeah, and so I think for me, I wasn't able to embrace the gifts that God gave me because I was always very intuitive and very prophetic, but I just did not embrace that. Like I would get visions and I'll be like, oh, that's Satan because of what I grew up with. And so it's when I was able to really know God in another level and really know the gifts of the Spirit, and I was very ignorant about all that I was able to say, oh, this is not a curse. This is actually a gift. And that took years, though, for me to
Yes,
get.
it does. And it's hard to come out of the other because you've seen what it can do. And you think like Santeria is good, and it's not because it's has too much. It's based on fear, a lot of fear, and there's
Yes.
a lot of money involved. You have to pay lots to
Yes.
move up.
Yes.
And I'm just so. How did you walk away from that?
Well, when I went to college, I kind of gave up on any kind of religious activities. And I was in a search of really wanting to know who is God, not because I grew up with it, not because I was a Catholic, I went to Catholic school my whole life, but because I really wanted to understand who is God to me and what is his real name. Like, I want to know. I know there's only one, but which one is it? Because there's so many choices. And so I read up on a lot of different religions, and God actually looked for me because I think he knew that I was in search of him. And, you know, the Bible says in Jeremiah that if you seek, but you have to seek with all your heart, you'll find him. It's not like you keep searching and you never find him. So one day I was taking a cab. I was going to study abroad, and the cab driver, I was headed to the club, by the way. And the cab driver starts talking to me about God, but it was a really weird conversation because he acted like as if he knew him as a person, right? Which was very new to me. And then, you know, but he's actually addressing me, not my friend who I was with. And so once he dropped us off at the club, I was ready to pay him, and he turned around, he looked at me, he says, you know, I really want you to think about what I said to you, but you don't have to pay for this ride. And then he just drove away. And I'm like, who does that in New York? It was really weird. And so I went into the club, and as if like some blinders came off me. I went home, I started crying. I was like I felt like it was like a supernatural experience, like if God was actually like used this cab driver. And somebody told me, you know, maybe that was an angel.
Yeah, no, that's what I was sitting here thinking.
And I was like, I don't know who that man was, but it actually was a turning point because it made me get on my knees, which I've never really did. And I said, God, you know, I don't know what this Christianity thing is about, but just show me what you want me to, what is it that you want me to do? And so I started going to church that next Sunday, and then actually my friend called me to go to church the next day. And then I studied the Bible, and I committed my life to Jesus, and I made him Lord. Not just said Lord, I mean really make him Lord
and
of my life.
And what does that mean? What does
like
that...
my whole life changed. Like I had to forgive people. I made amends with people. I would call people.
I did the
I
same
took action.
thing.
Like I just didn't just say okay and play church, because to me, if I'm going to go to hell, I'm going to go to hell in style. I'm not going to waste my time in playing church and then go living the vida loca. I'm not doing that. And so I broke up with a guy that I was very much in love with. I decided that, you know, not that there's anything wrong with dancing, but that the club scene was, which was a really big sacrifice for me.
I really understand that. It is for most
changed.
people. But you probably wanted Jesus so much.
Yeah,
that
I really
whatever
fell
it
in love
took,
with God.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't church and religion. It was really, I feel like, oh my God, like where have like blinders came off.
I know. You know what, you're describing me, Dee. It's exactly what happened to me.
Like my whole life changed.
Yeah, everything I used to love to do, I didn't want to do anymore. Everything I did not want to do, I could not get to do it enough.
Yeah, and you
Right?
know, I lost a lot of my friends because I was Miss Popular, Miss Fun Girl, and they thought I wasn't fun anymore because, you know, I wasn't, just everything changed. Even
But
though
you were having fun with the Lord.
Yes, I did. I was like, his word, I could not get enough of it. Like it was like, could not stop reading the Bible. Like my whole Bible was all torn up because I was highlighting and underlining, and it was just like, whoa.
You know what happened to me? I would read the Bible and go, I didn't know that was in the Bible.
Yes.
I just kept shocking me.
Yes.
But it was wisdom.
Yes.
Like what we're talking about tonight.
Yes.
Well, so you went along and were walking with the Lord, and then you started your career. How did you get in this great career? And I really wish you would talk about 3 or 4 things that you are doing right now.
Okay, well, let me be really quick. I started my career because, honestly, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be an anchor. I went to college for that. I went to college for communications and theater. And unfortunately, the church that I was going at the time, I did not realize it was a cult.
Oh, my goodness. You jumped out of the frying pan into the fire.
And so what happened was they had told me that being an actress, because I was getting a lot of offers, they said it was not from God and that it was worldly.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was willing to give that up because I said, if this is not going to make God happy, I'm not going to do it. So I totally just did never look back. I gave up all my headshots, my comp cards, everything, my agents. I was like, okay, this is not from God. You know, so I thought, because my heart was, I really want to please God. So here comes fashion. And I've always loved fashion since I was a little girl. And so I started working for Modern Bride magazine. And I was steaming all these wedding dresses for photo shoots.
Wishing you were wearing one of them.
I was like, wow, this is, but you know, after steaming 30 dresses, it's like, oh my God, I never want to get married. So then I worked there for 2 years. And then I remember my boss said, you know, I think you should be doing what I'm doing. And I found that, like, what does she mean by that? But she was like my mentor, and she had vision for me. You know, she was French. And she said, I really think you really need to pursue this career. So I remember Latino magazine had just started, and they were having ads. And it kept bumping into these ads, and I just felt like, I think I'm going to work there. So I called them to the point where now I'm still friends with the secretary, who was the editor-in-chief's assistant. And
So how long did you do that?
How long did I call?
No, how long did you work at Latina Fashion?
I was there for two years, Latina magazine.
Latina magazine.
Yes.
Now, I know for sure you do Latino Week, Fashion Week.
I do Latinista.
Latinista.
Which
How
is
did that
a
happen?
name that I created, like fashionista.
Okay.
So I trademarked that name because I knew I got something good. And then I created Latinista Fashion Week. And so basically it was to give a platform for Latin designers to, just like IMG Fashion Week, this is Latinista Fashion
And
Week.
it's worked, hasn't it?
And it's grown. Like, I think I created a monster because I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is really a big thing now. And it's been growing, and I've been getting calls. And so things are happening.
With it. But what else is happening now? I know you're doing breast cancer work. What is that?
I am on the board of the Ellen Hermansen Foundation. We just did a huge event in the Hamptons to raise awareness for breast cancer.
Oh.
And we raised money for all women. And I did not know that in the Hamptons, it's actually 70% of Latinos that live there.
I did not
And
know
it's
that.
actually, Long Island is the #1 area of breast cancer in not only New York, but in the eastern, I did not know that in the eastern
A lot
seaboard,
of
in the East
research
Coast.
needs to be done about that.
So I think it's the water, but I don't know. But anyway, so we just did a fundraiser. We got to raise really a lot of funds. And what I love about this foundation is that they really give free services, mammograms, chemo for anyone who can't afford it.
So you're doing that. Now, what else are you doing?
I'm also working on the UNCF, which is raising funds for the United Negro Fund, who also gives scholarships to Latinos and Caucasian students who cannot afford to go to college. I did not
Really?
know that.
No, I didn't know it either.
And I was like, wait a minute, but this is the United Negro Fund. But they actually do give scholarships to kids who cannot afford to go to college. So we're doing a huge fundraiser actually next week in the Hamptons. And we're also doing a walk-run in September in Roosevelt Island.
All right. Now, what are you doing for the Puerto Rican women? Because I know there's something about that.
Yeah, so Puerto Rico is actually going through a huge economic crisis. And unfortunately, because of bad deals, the government, corruption, a lot of people are leaving Puerto Rico and going to Florida or coming to New York. And so I'm involved in the National Association of Puerto Rican Women, and I'm on their board, and we're really trying to go to Washington, pass petitions, and really try to help Puerto Rico and have someone represent us in Congress, because there is no one that represents Puerto Rico. Yet Puerto Rico is part of the United States.
Absolutely, and
so it makes no sense.
Right, right. So if I were to ask you what was God's destiny for your life, you could say you thought it was acting.
Yes,
and
I thought.
something that wasn't a good thing got you out of that, but you ended up where you are now.
Yes.
And there are very few women who can do what you're doing right now. I'm really amazed. I'm just pretty amazed. So would you say God's destiny is for you to be associated with fashion and politics and what else? Causes?
Yeah, I am a huge advocate for just causes that have to do with women or children.
All right.
And animals, actually. That's very dear to my heart.
Okay.
And so I feel like, God just happened to shift
I
things.
think so.
I think,
And
but it goes
it's
back.
a good way, right?
But it goes back to entertainment. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Like he's
It's still
funny
there.
that way. He still puts me in front of the camera, not acting, but I get
in a better way.
interviewed. And I have a bigger platform.
Absolutely. Well, now let me ask you something. What kind of challenges have you personally encountered in learning all of this and doing all of this?
Wow. Okay. So I think for me, one of the things that I've learned is that, praising God and worshiping God is my plow. It's actually what breaks the ground in which I sow into. And so
Before you go into that area or while you're in it?
I think God had to teach me, and I'm going to be honest, I learned this lesson about a year and a half ago. I always thought, I just got to pray, keep repetitious prayer. And one of the things that I've learned about God is that I don't have to keep repeating myself, because it's kind of like saying, well, I believe that you're not good enough. You're not going to answer me. It's kind of like God is good, and I think that's really what I learned.
Yeah, and also that you don't
good.
have to repeat it a whole lot for God to hear you.
I really don't. He hears me the first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And so does the enemy.
Yeah, there's a time to pray a lot about something, and there's a time to pray one time, and you have to know the difference.
Yes, and I think petitioning. Yes, I believe in that. I believe in consistent prayer. I believe in sowing into, but God hears me the first time.
Yes.
And I learned that a year and a half ago that, Dee, you don't have to beg me. You're my child.
Right.
I hear you.
Right, and it's like a loving parent.
But I think it's the patience on my part, because he's not answering me right away.
Right. Right, so you think you need
so
to do
I'm
it
like,
again.
okay, maybe he didn't hear me. Let me just say it a little louder. Maybe I need to roll on the floor.
Right, crazy.
Maybe I need to raise my hands. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he does hear me. And, and that is
All
okay.
right. Now, in your job, what would you say has been the greatest challenge for you?
Ooh, I think doing things God's way and not the world's way. And let me tell you what I mean by that. There are people that I am surrounded with that can be very challenging, not trustworthy, maybe don't have the same core values, and I have to deal with everybody, right? Like you're not of the world, but you are in the world, and you're dealing with people who are totally not like you, and just really allowing God to speak to me, and that way knowing when to say, what to say, and how to say it. Because the Puerto Rican comes out of me and the New York comes out of me, and I just want to tear people apart. And but God holds me accountable. He really puts me in check in a lot of ways. And so when I want to say something, he's like, no. And I'm like, it's like swallowing the pride and realizing, wow, God, I didn't think I was prideful. But yeah, he holds me accountable, and really allowing him because I am the CEO of my company, but he is really the CEO.
And what's the name of your company?
It's called Dee Co Group.
Okay, and so you're the CEO.
Yes.
As far as everybody is concerned in the business world.
Yes.
But you're saying God is really your CEO.
Well, yes, he has to be. And
It
I
goes
want,
better.
and I
It
want
goes
him
better,
to be.
doesn't it? Yes.
I want him to be, because when he's out of that office and I go back into the office, it doesn't work as well as when he's the CEO.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, what do you think about this?
Yes,
And
yes.
so-
And that's true lordship.
Yes.
When it's in every area of your life. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, this show, is about wisdom, and people are looking for wisdom. Do you have wisdom for, like, maybe depression or hard times or difficulties or stress that you have learned through this amazing career you've got going on? Mm-hmm. What would you say?
All I can say is one thing, really. I think the only thing that helps me, and I've learned this the hard way, because I would do, just keep doing and run on empty and do. Okay, thank you, God, but do. And I think I had to work smarter. God taught me how to work smarter, and I think the biggest thing is I praise and worship first, and then I work. That's
like
it.
with music, you listen
I do
to music.
The way God speaks to me is through music and through worship. And I do that a lot, like seriously every day. And then I sleep with that at night, because
Play music, you have music
I
going,
play
worship music going on all
over
night.
everything I do, like when I'm typing, when I'm writing, when I'm speaking to somebody, because I want to clear the atmosphere. And I believe worship does that and ushers in.
Have you
the
ever heard
presence
the
of God.
statement, worship is warfare?
Yes, and that's what it does. Like if I feel stress or tension, I play worship music, and I just sink into that and soak into that, and it does something supernatural. It breaks through any kind of stress, strife, depression, any kind of negativity. It just does something, and that is how I resonate and speak to God.
So what do people in the business world think of you? Because they're having to deal with you at a high level. Do they like what they see?
Yeah, I think it's funny. Most people know that I am a Christian. I don't hide it. But the ones that don't know, there's something different, because they always ask me, wow, I've never really met anybody like you, or like, what is it about you? They ask me, do you do yoga? Are you into Kabbalah? I'm like, no, I think it's just God. And, they kind of, it takes them off guard, because they don't expect that. They expect me to have a little red ribbon, or, say, oh, I'm a Buddhist, and I'm like, no, it's God, and I pray a lot, and it actually is my foundation of what I do. And that kind of shuts it down.
But you glow. You just have the joy of the Lord. You as long as I've known you, you keep going, and you don't really let anything stop you. But Dee, I also notice you have a real wisdom for how to bring people along with you. What is that wisdom that you've got?
I think you mean to
promote, like Cesar Galindo.
Yes.
People you try to reach out and really bring people out.
Yes, like you mean as far as with my events?
Yes, and all of that.
I just try to see people as people. There's no agenda. I just kind of try to meet people where they're at, and I meet a lot of people from different backgrounds who are totally not in my, don't go to church, but I feel like God put me deliberately in what I do, and it's not really about me and my brand, and He just gave me this responsibility, because this is how He wants me to target this industry, and really to bring light into this industry, because this is a very dark industry.
But you're very unique, and you're very special, and you're very determined. I've seen that. You're a very determined person. You don't let stop you, and you keep going. And then the next thing I know, you've gone higher. It's just amazing how you do that. Well, Dee, it has really
Thank
been
you.
great to have you. I'm so excited for people to know about you.
Thank
It's
you,
just
Betty.
wonderful. Thank you for coming. This has been great. You're just a great person to know, and I know you're very inspiring to a lot of people, but the Puerto Ricans, wow. So I want to say to you who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. It wasn't an accident that you turned to this channel tonight. I hope you received some wisdom that you needed and that you just have a great rest of the night. I'll see you next time. Bye.